I bet you didn't know how a single event could plunge the entire world into chaos. The dawn of the 20th century was a period of seismic shifts and simmering tensions across Europe. The continent was a patchwork of empires, kingdoms, and republics, each jockeying for dominance and prestige. Nationalism, the fervent belief in the supremacy of one's own nation, was surging. This fervor fueled rivalries, deepened mistrust, and sparked a perilous arms race. The great powers of Europe were heavily armed and itching for conflict. They forged intricate alliances, vowing to defend one another in the event of an attack. This created a powder keg, where even a minor incident could ignite a continental inferno. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand on June 28, 1914, was that fateful spark. It set off a chain reaction, plunging the world into the abyss of World War I. This catastrophic conflict would redraw the political map of Europe, shatter empires, and claim millions of lives. The assassination was a tragedy in its own right. It also served as a grim harbinger of the horrors that would define the 20th century. The world watched in disbelief as Europe, seemingly at the pinnacle of civilization, descended into chaos. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was more than just the murder of an heir to an empire. It was a catalyst, a tipping point that exposed the deep fault lines in the European order. To grasp the magnitude of this event, we must first delve into the intricate historical context that made it so consequential. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, a sprawling and diverse realm ruled by the Habsburg dynasty, was a microcosm of Europe's troubles in the early 20th century. This vast empire, stretching across much of Central and Eastern Europe, was a melting pot of cultures, languages, and traditions, each contributing to its rich yet complex tapestry. This patchwork of nationalities, languages, and religions was held together by a delicate balance of power and a shared history. The empire's cities buzzed with the sounds of different tongues, and its streets were a mosaic of diverse faces and customs. Beneath the surface, however, simmered ethnic tensions and nationalist aspirations. These undercurrents of discontent were often masked by the outward appearance of unity, but they were ever present, threatening to disrupt the fragile harmony. The empire was home to Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Slovaks, Serbs, Croats, and many others. Each of these groups had its own unique cultural identity, traditions, and languages, which they fiercely protected and celebrated. Each group harbored its own cultural identity and political ambitions. These ambitions often clashed with the central authority of the Habsburgs, leading to a constant push and pull between the desire for autonomy and the need for unity. The Austro-Hungarian Empire was a relic of a bygone era, struggling to adapt to the realities of the 20th century. The rapid pace of technological and social change left the empire grappling with its identity and place in the modern world. Its aging emperor, Franz Joseph I, presided over a creaking bureaucracy and a restive population. His long reign saw the empire through numerous challenges, but by the early 1900s, his leadership was increasingly seen as out of touch with the needs of a changing society. The empire's military, once a formidable force, lagged behind the technological advancements of its rivals. The once proud army struggled to keep pace with the innovations in warfare that were transforming the battlefields of Europe. Its economy, while showing signs of industrialization, was hampered by internal divisions and competition from other European powers. The economic disparities between the empire's regions further fueled the sense of discontent among its diverse populations. Nationalism, the most potent force in Europe at the time, threatened to tear the Austro-Hungarian Empire apart from within. The rise of nationalist movements across the continent inspired similar sentiments within the empire's borders. The empire's Slavic populations, inspired by the idea of a unified South Slavic state, grew increasingly restless under Habsburg rule. These aspirations for independence and self-determination were a direct challenge to the authority of the empire. Serbia, an independent Slavic nation bordering the empire, became a focal point for these aspirations. The Serbian government actively supported the nationalist movements within the Austro-Hungarian Empire, providing both moral and material support. It actively supported the nationalist movements within the empire, much to the chagrin of the Austro-Hungarian government. This external support emboldened the nationalist agitators, further destabilizing the already fragile situation. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne in the Bosnian city of Sarajevo, was a direct consequence of these simmering tensions. This tragic event was the spark that ignited the powder keg of Europe. This act of violence, carried out by a young Bosnian Serb nationalist, would have far-reaching consequences, not just for the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but for all of Europe. The assassination set off a chain reaction of events that ultimately led to the outbreak of World War I, forever altering the course of history. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir presumptive to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was a visionary and determined reformer. His life and ambitions were marked by a deep sense of duty and a hopeful vision for a stronger, more unified empire. A man of strong convictions and a keen intellect, he was deeply aware of the challenges facing the empire he was destined to inherit. His awareness was not just academic, it was born out of a genuine concern for the future of his people and the stability of the region. Unlike many in the Austro-Hungarian elite, Franz Ferdinand recognized the need for reform and modernization to ensure the empire's survival in the face of growing nationalist sentiment. He saw the writing on the wall and understood that clinging to outdated structures would only hasten the empire's decline. Franz Ferdinand's vision for the empire differed significantly from the status quo. He was not content with mere cosmetic changes, he sought a fundamental transformation that would address the root causes of unrest and discontent. He believed in centralizing power, strengthening the military, and promoting economic development. His approach was multifaceted, aiming to create a robust and resilient state capable of withstanding both internal and external pressures. However, his most radical idea, and the one that ultimately alienated him from many within the Habsburg establishment, was his plan for a United States of Greater Austria. This was not just a political maneuver, but a bold reimagining of the empire's very structure. This ambitious proposal envisioned transforming the dual monarchy of Austria-Hungary into a federation of equal states, each with its own parliament and autonomy over internal affairs. It was a vision of decentralization and empowerment, aimed at fostering unity through diversity. This vision of a more inclusive and federalized empire, while controversial, was driven by Franz Ferdinand's belief that it was the only way to quell the rising tide of nationalism that threatened to tear the empire apart. He saw it as a necessary evolution, not a mere concession. He reasoned that by granting greater autonomy to the empire's diverse ethnic groups, they would be less inclined to seek independence. His hope was to create a sense of belonging and shared destiny among the empire's many peoples. However, his proposals were met with suspicion and resistance from both within the empire and beyond. The entrenched interests and conservative elements saw his ideas as a direct threat to their power and influence. The Austro-Hungarian elite viewed Franz Ferdinand's reformist ideas as a threat to their power and privilege. They were comfortable with the existing order and feared the uncertainty that change would bring. The Hungarians, who enjoyed a privileged position within the dual monarchy, feared that a federalized empire would diminish their influence. They were particularly resistant to any changes that might weaken their dominant status. Meanwhile, Serbian nationalists saw Franz Ferdinand's plan as an obstacle to their goal of a unified South Slavic state. They were determined to break free from Habsburg rule and saw his reforms as a way to entrench the empire's control. They viewed him as an enemy, a symbol of Habsburg oppression, making him a target for their anger and resentment. His assassination in 1914 by a Serbian nationalist was a tragic culmination of these tensions, setting the stage for the outbreak of World War I. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was far from the act of a lone gunman. It was a meticulously orchestrated event, born from a sinister web of intrigue and conspiracy. This deadly plot was the culmination of a dark conspiracy masterminded by a shadowy organization known as the Black Hand, a group cloaked in secrecy and driven by a fervent nationalist agenda. Officially called Unification or Death, the Black Hand was comprised of Serbian nationalists who were determined to liberate Bosnia and Herzegovina from Austro-Hungarian rule. Their ultimate goal was to unite these territories with Serbia, creating a Greater Serbia. Operating in the shadows, the Black Hand's members were bound by oaths of secrecy and loyalty. They communicated through coded messages and clandestine meetings, always wary of spies and informants. The Black Hand believed that violence was the only language the Austro-Hungarian Empire understood. They saw themselves as freedom fighters, willing to use any means necessary to achieve their goals. To them, the assassination of a high-ranking Habsburg official was the most effective way to strike at the heart of the empire and advance their cause. They believed that such an act would send a powerful message and destabilize their oppressors. The mastermind behind this audacious plot was Colonel Dragutin Dmitrievich, known by his code name, Apis. As the leader of the Black Hand, Apis was a charismatic and ruthless figure, deeply committed to the nationalist cause. Apis believed that the death of Franz Ferdinand would spark a crisis in the Balkans, one that Serbia and its allies could exploit to weaken Austria-Hungary. This, he hoped, would pave the way for the creation of a Greater Serbia, a dream that had long been cherished by Serbian nationalists. Apis and his co-conspirators meticulously planned the assassination. They recruited young Bosnian Serbs, training them in bomb-making and marksmanship. These young men were chosen for their dedication and willingness to sacrifice everything for the cause. The Black Hand chose Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, as the location for their operation. This city, with its strategic importance and symbolic value, was the perfect stage for their dramatic act. Sarajevo was a tinderbox of ethnic and religious tensions, with its mixed population of Serbs, Croats and Muslims. The Black Hand hoped that an assassination in such a volatile environment would ignite the powder keg of Balkan nationalism. They believed that this act would set in motion a chain reaction that would shatter the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The assassination was not just a political act, it was a calculated act of terrorism designed to sow chaos and reap the whirlwind. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand was a turning point in history. It was a spark that ignited a firestorm, leading to a series of events that would plunge Europe into one of the deadliest conflicts it had ever seen. The Black Hand's actions had consequences far beyond their wildest imaginations. Their plot set off a chain of events that led to World War I, a war that would claim millions of lives and reshape the world in ways that no one could have foreseen.